Chavarim, my friends. Oh my gosh, I love you guys so much that my eyes start watering every time I see a new name. Oh, it's Maribel. Oh, it's Donald. Hey, Daniel. My eyes start watering and I just start praising and I almost forget the message. And um, are we on? I hope so. I didn't even check. Oh, there we are. I am there. I, Moki Girl and I have a little joke about my hair. I got a bob where the woman just messed it up real bad. So I say, yeah, Bob is misbehaving. He's pulled back. Oh, thank you, J. Sweet Vanessa Wilkerson. Woo! Thank you for joining us, for putting off your lunch at work. We appreciate it so much, my Echad Squad sister. I look refreshed. Oh my goodness, I'm just so refreshed by seeing all of you. Yeah, Bob is pulled back today. Next time it's down. Notice, just get a good laugh out of my hair, okay? It's so bad. Shalom, Christine, Cami, Moki Girl, Valerie. Oh, love you guys. John Ryan. Yeah, we're live. Woo. I think I have the live thing down, Bob. I have the live thing down. Now we got to get rid of all the black, thing going on. I got to get the music going on. One thing at a time. Like John Ryan brought up last time. I don't like the unknown. And right now, the fact that this works at all, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I was like, it can be better. Trust me. Like, okay. Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. One thing at a time. No technical difficulties is almost enough for me. But Abba's calling me higher, which is part of the message today. So this is so exciting. Hey, Randall. Candace. Oh, I love you guys. Deborah. Oh, you guys are awesome. And that you're here, that's another part of the message, that you're here. We are all learning, Matt and Beth. Oh, James, Brad, woo. Patty. Oh, speaking of Patty, you got to go to Patty's channel. He did a 2-minute beautiful tribute to Alan. And it's everyone's missing Alan. And oh, by the way, speaking of missing Alan being with you, like on camera, I don't want any of you to feel bad for commenting how much you miss Alan. It doesn't hurt me or Vanessa or take away at all from what Abba's doing here now. So just pour your heart out. We love each other and we're all missing Alan, and I miss Alan. We used to talk every single day. We powwowed about the live stream. What did you think of that answer? What were you thinking? Kind of, and to not have that is a big void in my life. And when you guys say I miss Alan, I that doesn't hurt my feelings, okay? I just wanted to get that out there because a lot of you are saying I'm sorry to say this, but I miss Alan. I'm like, take the sorry off. That's a lie of Hachatan that I'll be hurt. So, oh my gosh, Albany, yeah, we are all so Baruch, so blessed to be here and on the narrow path. And that's really, the Father, I had a little bit of fear when I realized that the Father is actually distilling a message that Alan started 10 years ago. Make Elohim number one on a list of one. And it's turning out that every time I get any meltah, any burst of a revelation, that's what that Hebrew word means, meltah, it turns out, oh my gosh, this is another angle of the same message that Alan was bringing out every time, even if he didn't say it every time, and that is make Elohim number one on a list of one in your life. And this East versus West is just another way of saying that. It all comes down to two things. You have the East direction is the opposite of the West direction. You have the seed, as Alan brought up in this study, again, the seed of Hachatan or the seed of Yeshua. You have the narrow path or the broad path. You have the fruit of Hachatan or the fruit of Yeshua. And I'm hoping that the message is coming across that that doesn't mean you are perfectly going in one direction or perfectly bearing his fruit or perfectly being hot versus cold, because the narrow path still has width to it. Okay, if we were going exactly correctly and bearing perfect fruit and only being scorching hot, then it would be like we were going heel to toe on something that isn't technically a path. If you have a micro line that you're walking, it's not a path really at all. It's a line. And once we're changed and we have no flesh that has us meander a little, to the left, to the right, then we aren't going to be just exactly heel toe, but we are in him. It's his righteousness that makes us heel toe. So when we're going in the eastern direction, that brings in, that brings in the fact that we're running to win. You can't run in the opposite direction any more than you can bear the fruit of a different tree. You're going to run in the right direction. And if you look to the left, you're going to run a little bit to the left. If you look to the right, you're going to run a little bit to the right. And that's why we're told don't look to the left or to the right. Just like when you're driving. If you look to the left, you tend to veer to the left. If you look to the right, you tend to veer to the right. But even when you do, not if, when you do, you're not doing one of those FBI driving moves where suddenly you're going in the opposite direction. You can't do that by accident. That's a trained maneuver that none of you want to learn to do on your spiritual walk. But you can't do it by accident. You can't just run in the other direction. You're going in the eastern direction. And if you're here with us, with Alan, not in front of the camera, clearly your being here isn't about Alan. You're here because you're driven to learn more about his word. You're driven to go back to the beginning, just like this study is about. Go back to the beginning, have the mud cleaned off, so that you can, in him, have a more narrow path. That's what's really, that was the melta today that the Father gave me about the eastern direction and the narrow path, that you'll never get it down to a micro path, heel toe, there's no variation while you still have flesh. But what is going to happen is what Alan has talked about other times, that you become more like him. It's getting it. And as you get it, the narrow path, your narrow path with Abba Father, your walk with him, becomes more narrow as you grow in the Word. And as you grow and you're washed by the Word, you pitch tents more with him, which is a narrowing of your path. You don't step outside the tent as much. You don't even think of it. It just happens because he's doing it in you. And that brings me to, really the Father wants me to hammer that you're all going in the right direction. Even when you stumble and fall, you're not turning around and going the other way. And that's what he meant. When we talked about the fruit doesn't have to be perfect for it to not be cut down. When he says a good tree doesn't bear bad fruit, he doesn't mean you'll never make a mistake. You'll never have a blemish, because you will. That everything we do is tainted by this flesh until we don't have it anymore. So that can't be what he means. And what he's really saying is the next part of the fruit teaching is he says, can this tree bear that fruit? No. And so bad fruit comes from the seed of Hachatan. And just because you act out of the flesh, just like Shaul said, "Oh, wretched man that I am," he wasn't saying I'm bearing the fruit of Hachatan. He's saying some of my fruit is just not the way I wish it were. And that's just going to be the case until we go home and he, Yeshua, makes us complete and perfect. So, exactly, bad fruit comes from the seed of Hachatan. Vanessa, I said exactly because I read your comment. Bad fruit comes from the seed of Hachatan. Don't get it twisted. That's right, because so many of us are twisted up with anxiety when we have fruit that isn't perfect, and we say, "Oh my gosh, didn't Yeshua say, if you bear bad fruit, you're going to be cut down?" Who does that sound like? Yeah, Hachatan in the garden. Did Elohim really say? He twists it just enough to make you anxious about your walk when you don't have perfect fruit. And the fact is, you're not going to have perfect fruit. You're not going to walk heel to toe toward east. Okay? So it's a progressive change. It's a progressive thing. He makes us perfect when we're gone. And until then, we have to trust. And yes, there's some natural anxiety there, but as our path gets more narrow, our anxiety diminishes as well. It never totally goes away. It's part of our flesh. So as long as we have flesh, we'll have it. But as long as you're narrowing with him, and he's doing that with you here. That's why you're watching. So if you have anxiety about your walk and you're hearing me, put it together. I'm hearing caregiver because I want my walk to be more narrow. I want to know him better. And why? Because he loved me first. He called me to this desire. That's why you're here. So he's really urging me to comfort you, to be an agent of the comforter. He's just revealing to me just how much anxiety is out there. And he doesn't want you to live in that anxiety. He wants you to understand that he's called you, and you are naturally, not naturally in the flesh, but naturally as his own children, bearing the fruit of his son's seed that makes you B'nai Elohim. And it's his doing. Albania says, "I'm trying to teach my daughter this very thing." You know, it's excellent. You're leading your children in the way. But remember, the Father does the teaching through you. So pray that your children receive the message. You can't make them. So lead them in the way and let the Father do the work in them the way he's doing the work in you. So let's see. Oh yeah, I had a catchphrase that the Father gave me. Alan likes those. About east is east and west is west. Make sure you're headed, and if you're here, you are. But here's the thing. I just love this phrase. He said, go due east. That's your goal. Due east. D-U-E. Not do, D-O east. That's works. You can't do it, D-O, on your own. You go due east, D-U-E. So I don't know if I can turn that into a real catchphrase, but it came to me, and there it is, due east. So that's what we're going to remember when we refer back to east is east and west is west. Go due east, not due east. Alex, thank you. That is a catchphrase straight from Yahweh. Can you tell? Yeah, it did not come from this pea brain. I'm so glad everyone recognizes this is Yahweh's message to you of comfort and shalom, and how to replace anxiety of the unknown and anxiety of not being perfect, which I understand. Believe me. My mom never had to punish me by the way. I punished myself. She actually had to teach me to laugh at mistakes, and her thing when I was a kid was oops. Like, we just say oops when we make a mistake. We don't cry for days. So anyway, I hope to pass along that shalom and that message from the Father, that if you're here, you're where He wants you to be, and He called you to be here. You're going east, even if you get distracted, here and there, because we all will. So that's all we can do, is keep going due east by His power. So, I did want to thank you for the shout out, Alex, to Tiffany. Tiffany has completed in the Ruach her study, and I wanted to watch it so bad, but this message was bubbling up in me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't get distracted by a different message, although I think the Father is revealing the same message to all of us in different ways. So praise Abba. Can't wait to watch it. Maribel said she's seen it and was highly blessed by the message. So thank you, Tiffany, for your strongholds that you are overcoming in Yahuwah are really something to praise Abba for, because it's an example to all of us. Feel the fear, do it anyway in Him, and He is esteemed even more in our weaknesses. So yeah, Moki says, can't wait to watch it later. Tiffany, love you so much. Sister, yes. Christine, looking forward to it. We're all looking forward to it, Tiffany, and may you be highly baruch by everyone's comments that I know are heartfelt and will just esteem the Father and build you up as a believer, so a follower of the way. Thank you so much for your obedience and for your carrying the torch with the Odiote. That was not my calling. That's clearly your calling. And to carry this torch with my Echad squad sister Vanessa in Alan's ministry is a privilege beyond measure. We still can't even fathom that the Father worked this out this way, but praise Abba in all things. So does anyone have any questions that they want to ask about East is East, West is West, or pretty much anything else? Give me a QQQ. That helps. It really does. Amen. Tiffany is a great teacher of the Odiote. Yes, she is. I wish she could, every time she does it, she'll feel less fear. So it's a progressive thing. So hopefully we don't have a lot more time left, but if we do, I'm sure she'll do more. Hazel asks, are we actually born with good seed or bad seed? That is an excellent question, Hazel. The word says that we're all born under the curse, which means we are naturally the seed of Hachatan. However, that gets us to a question of free will versus predestination. And He knew us before we were born. He knew that we would be called out. He knew us, every thought, every word that would ever be on our lips. So from the I am's perspective, you are always His. So this is a pretty deep theological question. But Alan talks about it quite a bit in his study, B'nai Elohim, Children of Elohim, where he talks about free will versus predestination. Am I predestined, or do I have free will? Well, it's both. But the word is clear that we are all born under the curse. So if we don't bow the knee to Yeshua, when you bow the knee to Yeshua, you become His seed. So if you don't make that decision, you're on the broad path to destruction by default. And the reason we choose Him is He chose us first before the foundation of the world. So there's a lot to that we're just not really going to totally grasp before we go home, but I hope I gave you a satisfactory answer until then. Okay, let's see. I see one from Crystal. Did I miss one while I was answering Hazel. No, I don't think so. Let's see. Crystal says, the idea of cycles has helped me, that we don't understand everything on the first encounter. Yes, praise Abba, that has changed my consumption of the word. Crystal, that is a great point. Alan does teach that. I don't know which one you watched, but he does teach it in Ezekiel's Wheels, and he teaches it in others too, that we go around the tree, and the first time around the tree we notice the leaves because he calls our attention to the leaves, then the branches on the next time, and oh, look at the bark, wow, that's interesting on the next trip. And the idea that you get the whole tree in one trip around, boy, is that a lie of Satan. So I can see why it would be transformative to learn that you keep going around the tree. That's really why it's so exciting for us Trulies to be going back together and going over Alan's studies together as a group, because then all the melta that we all get, all the revelation, we can share together. So this is so exciting. Thank you for that comment. Let's see. Cycles, yep. Questions? Oh, John, yeah, I've been struggling with this since January, and it's 10 times worse since Alan got sick. I visualize the narrow path as a thin line. I was thinking of you when that Melta came to me, that if we envision their narrow path like a microscopic line, we're just going to drive ourselves nuts. That you can't get your feet onto. Hopefully you can listen to this study again, John, and really understand that the narrow path is a path, and he directs our steps. And take it together with all the studies I know you've been watching with us about how his righteousness makes us righteous until we're changed and we don't have this flesh anymore. Ask him to truly teach you to wrap your mind, the mind of Yeshua, around this, that you are being perfected. You are moving toward perfection through him and by what he's doing. If you're anxious all the time that you can't go heel toe down in the due east, then Hachatan is just sapping your joy for nothing. He's lying to you, saying you have to be perfect. And the reason he saps your joy is not just for you. It's that, as I said in an earlier live stream, if you don't exhibit the joy, no one's going to ask you about the reason for your joy. So I would take it as a personal goal, if you're struggling with perfectionism, to deal with that as a stronghold, because a lot of times we look at it secretly as a good thing. Oh, well, what's wrong with perfection, right? So we hang on to it secretly on purpose. Don't do that. Let it go. It's a lie. It's ruining your chedwa, your joy. Watch Alan's Joy of Yahweh and demonic strongholds, and look at perfectionism as a stronghold that's detracting from your walk. Ironically, the more you focus on perfectionism, the broader your narrow path is, because you're all over the place with anxiety over the width of the path. Okay, you see it now? You saw it. I saw the light come on. Awesome. Praise Abba. I'm glad you mentioned it, John. Let's see. Lauren has a question about Sukkot. I did as you asked. I prayed to Yahweh, and he said, read the passages that you have outlined. I just want to say Tootie, or thank you, caregiver. Oh, that's not a question. And if I had the gun, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you did take it to Abba, and those passages gave you Melta, gave you revelation from the Ruach. That's awesome, Lauren. Thank you. So exciting. Awesome, John. Got it loud and clear. Sweet. Sweet. Praise Yahweh indeed, Dana. Amen. Deborah, I've watched 63 of Alan's videos. You are so detail-oriented with us in the Matt and John pod. P. To have counted. You're so cute. Oh, goodness. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Had a question now, I forgot. Rahel, hey, sister. Just post it later or come in next time. We'll be gathering again Thursday, I believe. Hey, Alan in New Zealand. And that is how he pitched tents with him, spending time in his word, brings his presence into your life, into your tent. Amen. Amen. Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions. It's almost 3:30, so let's bow our hearts and thank Abba for our time together. Oh, dear Abba Father, Yahweh, we thank you so much again and again and again for this precious family in you. Father, we thank you for the Melta, the new revelation that you're giving us in Alan's studies. Father, we thank you for east is east and west is west. We thank you that you gave us the Ruach HaKodesh not just to direct and convict us, but to comfort us as well. Father, I pray that your shalom will come over each and every one in this family that's listening, that you would take especially those who struggle with perfectionism, and that you would let that stronghold dissolve away in the light and high life with you truth that you are our righteousness, period. That if you've headed us in the right direction, all we have to do is keep running in you. You do the work. Father, help us to recognize that trying to be perfect and worrying about every blemish is really of Hachatan and just a stealer and a killer of our chedwa, our joy, our place in you, Father. Help us to take all this and internalize it so that it exudes out of us by accident, just like fruit is exuded out of a tree without its effort. It just plain grows. Father, thank you for causing us to grow, that you are esteemed by us in our lives, pretty much by accident, as we just live and breathe and have our being in you. We pray all these things in chedwa, in joy, in Yahweh, through Yeshua. And all the Kodashim said, Amen. Oh, yes, Amen. Look at all the Amens. Love you guys, and see you in the chat in a second. All right, go up here and stop screaming. Shalom.